Hey, everybody. Sorry I'm running a minute late here. Just came out of youth group and had a crazy bunch of kids tonight. We were here, had 26 kids here for youth group tonight, and want to say a big thanks to Joyce Koenig for cooking for us tonight. She made spaghetti, and it was awesome. So really enjoyed that, and it was nice to see so many kids out tonight. And I know Jess had quite a crew downstairs too. So we had 26 upstairs and probably close to that downstairs. So we had like 50 some kids here tonight. So that was awesome. So a little pandemonium though, but it was nice to have such a full house. So all right. Hope everybody's got their book here handy. We'll be getting to that here in just a second. Anybody who's here who does not have the book, be glad to share the book with you if you want one. I can share it with you via digital sharing, so you can have it right now if you want to follow along. If you don't have the book, I'm working on getting a link here. And here we go. So we can get that up for you. And so cool. I got 19 people here so far. So hopefully we'll get a few more to sign in. I'm going to be talking about your good friend of mine, the Apostle Peter, tonight, and enjoying his conversation here. I'm putting it in the there. I know there's a little lag, so it probably showed up before I said it, or it will show up after I say it. But here is the link to the book if any of you need it. So hopefully you're able to get it. I have two copies of the book. I have this one here on my desk, and I have one by my devotion chair at my house. So that's the one I read personally, and then here's the one I'm going to be going through with you guys. So awesome. I'm going to be giving a few shout outs here in just a moment. But I'm going to make a quick announcement here. I want to invite all of you. It's going to seem a little self-serving. I'm going to invite all of you to pray for our new sermon series we started last week. We talked about King Solomon on Sunday and the idea of prayer and how important prayer is and how he was willing to pray, put the needs of the people, praying for the needs of his people being above his own desires, and put his calling above his desires. And that's not always a super fun thing to do. And this week we're going to be looking at Hannah, who's coming to us from the book of Samuel. And Hannah was Samuel's mother, and she is going to have a petition. And I'm was working on the scripture a little bit today, get ready for Sunday. And, hopefully I hope I got some time set aside to do some writing tomorrow. So I hope I actually get to that. It's been kind of a crazy week here, but hopefully you can get that taken care of. So some prayers for that. Parker is going to be bringing the sermon to us week after next. So on March the 7th, it's going to be Parker, and I got to read and kind of help him fine tune what he's doing. And I hope you folks at Wayne Street understand what a gem you guys have. Parker's a great kid and does great work, and I'm excited to have him on staff here. And hopefully he'll maybe you're going to be enjoying what he has to offer for years to come. Appreciate Jess too. Jess was here tonight. We were having some time upstairs, and the kids were having supper, and then she took them all downstairs, and she sent me a video on my phone just before I got here of a bunch of kids sitting in the theater downstairs. For those of you who may not know that, we have a theater downstairs, a small one, and they were down there singing Waymaker, and it was pretty cool to see those kids singing that song. Any of you who happen to know that song, and so I was watching that right before I logged on here. So appreciate your prayers for that, and now let's get to some shout outs. And everybody jump in the comments. I would like for you to make any preliminary comments on the devotional. Anything you have on day number 1, right there, day number 1. Please share those in the comments right now while I'm doing some shout outs so that we can be ready to go here in just a minute. So Amy Hogshead, who is our typical first commenter. Amy, good to hear from you tonight. Glad those stitches are healing. Hope that your mouth is going to be feeling better. She got her wisdom teeth out. Hopefully that's doing well. Jan, thanks for coming out tonight. Hopefully Scott's doing well. I think I saw him comment a little bit later, so we'll get to say a word to him. Those of you keep Scott in your prayers. He's having some problems with his kidneys. Hey, Angie, good to see you tonight and appreciate you coming out. Daryl, again, thank you for always responding to my text. Appreciate that, and good to see you out. Val McAllister, thanks for Allie and Lorelai being here tonight. I hope Sean's feeling better. Sean's got a migraine today, so any prayers you got for Sean would be appreciated. Get him to feel better. Listening as I transport Lorelai. Okay, well, you be careful out there driving and listening. Hey, Crystal Dove, good to see you and Bill. And heard you guys watched a good movie over the weekend. Care to share what that was? Crystal, loaned to you by a extremely generous benefactor. So Jan says, Scott doing better tonight, working on getting blood pressure down. His kidney counts were good today, so no dialysis. Well, hey, that's good. Jan will certainly take that. Keep that good news coming. Hi, Teresa Bitters. Hope your knee is recovering, and I hope the physical therapy is going well. Teresa shared with me a video today that I haven't got a chance to watch yet, but when I'm driving home tonight, I'm going to click it on. It's Tim Hawkins talking about sermon series. And any of you who know Tim Hawkins, that man is hilarious. He's a Christian comedian, and he is funny. One of the funniest bits by Tim Hawkins I ever heard was he was talking about how, have you ever noticed when boys design games, the whole point to the game is the boy getting hurt? And he goes, I didn't realize how much of a problem this was until one time my son comes up to me and he was 7. He goes, Dad, I want you to take this brick and I want you to throw it at my head so I can see if I can move out of the way in time. And I'm not going to look either because I'm going to see if I can do it. All right, ready, go. And Tim said, I thought about that. And that brick had not so much as left my hand when I thought this is probably not a good idea. So he's really funny. If you watch any Tim Hawkins stuff, man, his stuff is hilarious. So some of the things he's talking about. But yeah, so she sent me a clip by him. I'm looking forward to watching that. Hi, Skylar. Good to see you out tonight. Thanks for coming in. And Skylar, do you have a copy of the book? I think I sent you one, but I want to make sure you got one. DW, man, good to see you. I got to talk to you for a while since I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? DW was in here. We were working on some stuff. Tina and Mike are here with Skylar. Appreciate you guys being in here. Hi, Dave and Amy. And let's see. Hi, Angie. And Doug and Margie are here. Margie's really excited because we got a new toy here at Wayne Street that Margie's going to be playing on, and I even happen to have a picture of it on my phone. If I can find my pictures here. We got a new addition in the youth room upstairs. It's this. Y'all see what that is? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that says Pac-Man. We have a Pac-Man arcade game upstairs, and Margie has said that she's going to set the high score on it. I've already done that, and I have a rule that no one's allowed to beat my high score, so I wouldn't recommend that you do that because I will reset the game. But anyways, that's what Margie said. So we'll see how that works out. Hi, Tom and Marge. Good to see you tonight. Hey, Scott Moran. Thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate you coming in. And Tom and Marge, hope you guys are having a good day. And it was a beautiful day, no doubt about it. Way better than what it has been, no question. Hi, Kevin Bettinger. Haven't seen you for a while, buddy. Good to see you tonight. Eric Gurman. Good to see the Gurmans represented here tonight. Brenda, just getting on, was helping Cody with his Spanish homework. I am very sorry to hear that. Brenda, hope that's done because that I can't think of anything that sounds less fun than that. Kevin want Amy to get better. Good. Hi, Skylar says yes. I hope that's yes to my question. Loaded on your iPad. Excellent. So Susan Egri, your hello tells me you're probably home. I hope you're home. She was here helping us with youth group tonight. Cheryl and Jack are in the house. Appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, good to see you. Cool Pac-Man game. Yes, it is a cool Pac-Man game. I could waste a lot of time on that thing. So it's really little. It's only about, it's only, about like that. Maybe sometime we'll have to set it up back at Fellowship Hall on Sunday morning so I can school all you fools in Pac-Man because I'm a boss at it. So yeah, Teresa, it is a cool Pac-Man game. Eric loves Pac-Man. Maybe we'll have to do that. Cheryl loves Pac-Man. Beat it a few times back in the day. How about that? Maybe we'll have to set that up in the back and see what's going on. So, Office Girls, yeah, Alina and Angie get to go play Pac-Man. I was actually there. Alina was the first one to see it come out of the box. She and I were there, and Alina was very impressed. As you may know, Alina's an old school gamer. She has a Super Nintendo. So she was excited to see it too. So, all right, this is awesome. You guys are really chipping in and making good comments. And, I always appreciate that. Yet no one did what I asked. Any comments on Peter? Anybody got anything to say about the devotional? Are you enjoying it? Are you even reading it? These things are a tremendous amount of work, and I would love to get some feedback from that. So I hope you're enjoying the first 7 days of Peter. Just as a reminder, I only followed Peter's story through the Gospel of Luke. The reason I did that is because it might get a little confusing because the 4 Gospels kind of jump around a little bit in the order that stories are in. So I decided to go with just one. And the reason I chose Luke was because if this is a study that we really enjoy, we could actually do the sequel because the gospel writer Luke also wrote the book of Acts. So we've traced Peter through Luke. And if we decide we want to, we could also trace Peter then through the book of Acts. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. So, all right. Now, I'm going to let you guys get off easy because I'm way too nice and let you easy on this first day. I sincerely put at the bottom of the thing, notes for this Wednesday's live stream is on the bottom of every single page of the whole thing. So I hope you guys have written some stuff. I hope you'll make some comments because I have no desire to talk for the next 47 minutes until this is over. So I really love some feedback from you guys on what we're looking at and things that are going on here. So. Okay, Amy's enjoying it good. Tom and Mars love Pac-Man. Maybe I will have to set that up in the back. Brenda, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I know you enjoyed many of the studies we did at Forest Park. Tina, Mike, good. Glad you guys are reading. Part of your morning, Angie. That's great. Yeah, the stories are great, Eric. No question about it. So, good deal. All right. Well, for the first day of the study, which will be page number 2 because the opening letter was page number 1. Was Jesus healing Peter's mother-in-law. I've always found this story to be very fascinating, and I have to admit, again, because I've never just said, okay, here's one gospel portrayal of Peter, because Peter is somebody we see show up in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Acts, and plus he's written some epistles. First, Second Peter, obviously, and some of those. So Peter's not somebody that, at least I never have taken one gospel and said, okay, we're going to read Peter's story just in, Luke. And I never realized that the mother-in-law story in Luke is actually the first. That shows up in Luke chapter 4, as you can see there. The miracle of the great catch of fish doesn't show up until chapter 5. I didn't know that. So Jesus, according to Luke, actually went to home with Peter one night, had supper with him, and healed his mother-in-law. And the next, I don't know how much time there was between the two things, but it was after that that Jesus said, "Hey, one more cast on the nets," and Peter tossed him in the water and the huge catch of fish, and that's when Peter said, "All right, Jesus, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm in." It seems to me, if you're going to ask me, the healing of the mother-in-law should have been more moving to Peter than the fish. Again, both are miraculous. I'm not taking nothing away from the fish catch because that's amazing. But I just find it interesting. That's what it would have been. Teresa says Peter's mother-in-law was a great miracle because Peter didn't have to listen to his wife nag him to have Jesus heal her. That very well could be. I always imagine, Peter coming home. I would love to know how that went. Okay, so Peter's out working all day. He's out on the boats, and Jesus, was there. And I'm just imagining Peter and Jesus is walking. I mean, because he met Jesus out on the docks, I'm assuming. And they're kind of walking along, and they get home, and I always wonder if Peter was like, "Oh, you're gonna heal my mother-in-law? You're gonna heal my mother-in-law who lives with me. That's what's gonna happen now. That's what we decided to do. She lives here in my house, and you're gonna heal her. You're gonna make her better and heal her so she can stay living in my house." I always wondered if that's what it was like, where he's like, "Oh no, sweetie, I'm excited on the inside." I always wondered if that's not how this went, but anyways, and it also never. I was always surprised to see that Jesus heals her, and she immediately gets up and starts making supper. I mean, there's a lot of really horrible things I could say about that, but I always found that to be interesting that she went, right to serving after she was healed, which, that part of it might be a lesson to us. Is after Jesus did something for her, she wanted to respond and do what she could, and making this dinner. Again, I don't know what her specialty was. Of course, I got spaghetti on the brain now because that's what Joyce was serving earlier. But I always wonder if she that's what she did. She wanted to do something for Jesus, and why not feed him? I mean, that's great. But anyways, though, okay, having said all that goofiness, I'm still shocked that wasn't what made Peter say, Jesus, I don't know what you're doing here, but I'm in. But clearly it wasn't. And we're going to talk about that when we get tomorrow to tomorrow's reading, or the next day's reading, is that after this miraculous catch of fish, then Peter's like, yeehaw, I'm in. The mother-in-law thing, I mean, you may think that I cut this out. I picked up these 4 verses, 38 to 41. And you may think, well, didn't you put the rest of the story? No, I did. This is kind of it. It just really feels like there should have been at least something more. I don't know. Jump in the comments. Let's talk about this. Tell me why. Tell me why you think the catch of fish we're going to talk about tomorrow got her, and healing mom-in-law didn't. Why was that the more powerful miracle? And I mean, I'm not asking because I'm looking for a particular answer. I sincerely don't know. Because if you'd asked me, healing somebody I cared about would have been more moving to me. Now, again, it could have been that his mother-in-law was going to recover anyways. I mean, people recover from fevers. That's certainly not unheard of. But it just seems to me like that would have been a bigger deal than this catch of fish. Because again, Peter had been catching fish his whole life too. I mean, he knew what a big catch of fish was. And we knew he'd done this before because when the big catch of fish started happening, he knew exactly what to do. How to get it in there without tearing the nets and all that. He knew exactly what to do. And I just think that's. So what do you think? Why didn't the mother-in-law, healing of the mother-in-law, why didn't that seem to have a bigger effect on Peter? Okay, so Susan has comments on 2 of the days. That's good. Drive over the road now. Just have me on break at this time tonight. Well, Kevin, I'm super glad that you're here. Tina and Mike. I think the fish was more of an awe, probably because he had spent all night trying and couldn't, so he thought it was truly impossible. All right, I could go with that. I mean, clearly, having been a lifelong fisherman, he knew when it was time to scrub it and hang it up because it wasn't happening, and he clearly had gotten to that point. So maybe he understood that miracle better. Because again, the fever thing, I mean, who knows about that? So maybe that could be. Teresa says, I had a sick mom-in-law living with us for a while. I would have been jumping for joy if she was healed quickly. Okay. I mean, yeah. And again, that's not the response I read from Peter. In fact, it was she got healed and immediately started making supper. I don't know. It just seems like that should have been a bigger deal. And again, we're early in the story. I mean, in Luke, we've had the stories of Jesus' birth, and Luke is the one that contains the story of Jesus at 12 years old in the temple, and the temptation for Satan and all that stuff has happened already. But this is really one of the first miracles, is this thing with the mother-in-law, and I just feel like it should have been a bigger deal. It just seems like to me like it would have been. Scott says it happened to Peter personally. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why I think he would be more moved by that than by this miraculous catch of fish. But that's not how Luke tells it. So for whatever reason, the miraculous catch of fish made a more profound impression on Peter than the mother-in-law did. And I'm not trying to take anything away from this miracle. Please hear me. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm not trying to say that, whatever, big deal is one lady, who cares? That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, and we're going to see this in the reading from Luke 5, is that Peter is awestruck, we're told, by the catch of fish. And again, I get it. He understood that miracle. He knew from many nights, I'm sure he'd fished all night and caught nothing. So he knew what it was like to say, look, guys, we gave it our best. The fishes aren't here tonight. So he knew that. And then all of a sudden for the nets to be, one more cast and the nets are just, piled upon pile. He knew how special that was. And maybe because that miracle was a part of Peter's livelihood, and since he understood it better, it could be. It could be that's why it was moving to him. Susan says maybe he didn't think his mother-in-law was that sick. Okay, I honestly had not thought of that, Suze, but that actually does make sense. So maybe all Peter thought Jesus did was speed the recovery process along rather than actually bring her back from the point of death. That could be. That actually makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. I hadn't thought of it that way. That makes the most sense of any theory I've heard, because it just seems to me like if she was at death's door, and you're right, maybe she wasn't, and that makes a lot of sense. So he thought, thanks for speeding this along. Now let's have some supper. It could be. That could very well be. Interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it. So, all right. So, anyways, as I've made very clear in this conversation so far, I was very surprised that the mother-in-law came before the catch of fish. Because, look, we've all heard the story. Y'all have heard the story. The miraculous catch of fish. We all thought that was the first of the miracles that Peter witnessed. But again, as Luke tells us, it wasn't. Tom Mars Tangeman, he had never seen a big catch of fish like that. And he had seen more healings and knew Jesus could heal some. Maybe, but according to Luke, that hasn't happened yet. Tom and Marge, you're exactly right. He eventually sees that, but he hadn't seen it yet. At this point in the story, that hadn't happened yet. Now, maybe they're looking on to bigger and better things. But again, this early in the story, the mother-in-law appears to be the first. So it's at least the first that Peter had witnessed. And maybe she was the type to cry wolf. Well, Teresa, maybe she was a drama queen. Again, that's all possible. Luke doesn't tell us that. And again, please hear me, folks. I'm not trying to downplay the miracle. There is a miracle here. But for some reason, and all we can do is hypothesize, which you all know how much I love doing that, the what-if game. Why the fish made Peter go, let's do this. We're healing the mother-in-law was like, can you make the good stuff for supper? I mean, the responses are very strange. And whenever, because guys all know I spend a lot of time reading and studying Bible. I love this part of my job. Just makes me wonder, why did the catch of fish get him when the healing of the mother-in-law didn't? You guys got some awesome theories. You guys are good at this. The idea that maybe she wasn't as Peter didn't think she was as sick as she was letting on. Maybe she cried wolf. Maybe she was a drama queen. Those actually make a lot of sense. And again, the cool part of that is we don't know. It's a hypothesis. We may be entirely off. Maybe there was some other reason why it was. But this is what happens when you read between the lines. I love doing that, to read between the lines and see what we can do. We did that a little bit on Sunday. We were talking about King Solomon asking for wisdom. How many of you who may have heard that sermon, or it's on the channel, the YouTube channel, if you want to go back and watch it, how many of you ever thought of the story of Solomon about the lesson being prioritizing your calling over your desires? Had any of you ever thought of it that way? Because I love to find new ways to look at scriptures, and that one was a new one to me. I'd never thought of it that way before, about how when Solomon chose wisdom, when God said, hey, whatever you want, dude. And he says, make me wise. And how that was a choice that prioritized his calling, which was to be the king, over whatever desires he may have had. I'm not trying to ring my own bell, but I was interested by that. I had a fun time putting that sermon together. Let's see. Val, Eric says, I wonder if he had a close relationship with her. Again, very valid question. Again, because somebody tell me what Peter's wife's name is. You might know. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you don't know, because we don't know. As far as I know, the only reason we even knew Peter was married was because of the reference to his mother-in-law here in this passage, this kind of passing reference to a healing that didn't seem to amount to much. I mean, I'm sure it mattered to the mother-in-law, but didn't seem to matter to Peter all that much. And so I thought that was an interesting way to do it. So yeah, Eric, I mean, that's certainly a very, very valid question to ask that we have no answer to. We have to speculate. Let's see. Val McAllister agrees with Suze, as I do too. Teresa, maybe Peter identified with the fish because it was his livelihood. Yeah, he understood that, and I agree with that. Scott had not thought of Solomon that way. And Scott says, Mrs. Rock. That's right. When Jesus changed his name from Simon to Peter, she became Mrs. Rock. And I don't know if she's ever referred to that way, but yes, that's where she would have been. Angie, Peter knew he healed the sick, but catching the fish was huge. Jesus cares about what we are day-to-day routine. I agree with that. The only thing I would say about that, Angie, is that there were no healing stories yet. Now, yes, they were certainly coming, but this seems to be one of the very early ones. And I don't know that, and I can't remember what else Luke contained, but if there were other healing stories, I don't know that Peter was witness to them. This would have been the first one he witnessed right there. So I would think I would have been impressed with that. But again, Peter doesn't seem to be. So I don't know. And all we can do is speculate and have conversations in Wednesday live streams that are interesting, but really there's no answer to the question. Hey, Martian Joe, I hope you guys are soaking up some sunshine. Thank you for sending us finally some warmer weather. That all this god-awful snow is starting to melt, and we couldn't be more excited. So, okay. All right. I kind of got into page 3 here where we're looking at Luke chapter 5. I want to say just another word about that. What do you think would have happened if after a long period of fishing, the nets have been scrubbed, put away, everybody's tired, have nothing to show for it, there's going to be no pay, no money, and all of a sudden the carpenter says, hey, throw them in again. How many of you throw those nets in the water? And let's give Peter some props here. And it very well may have been that the mother-in-law thing is what spurred Peter on to throw the nets back in. But that's a pretty big ask, don't you think? That's a pretty big ask to say, hey, I know you're going to have to scrub all those nets again, but throw them in one more time. After you've just been throwing them in for, all night, God knows how long, Jesus says, throw them in one more time. Who here can honestly say that you would have been like, oh, sweet. Yes, let's do that. Now, again, maybe the mother-in-law miracle was a warm-up to talk Peter into throwing the net in, because if the net doesn't go in the water or doesn't go back in the water at this point, the gospel changes. I mean, the gospel is going to be different. If Peter doesn't say, throw it overboard. If Peter's like, look, I'm exhausted. Thanks for what you did for mom-in-law. Appreciate that, but I'm exhausted. I'm ready to go home. Peter says that, the whole gospel's different. Because it was this miracle, it was this final tossing of the net that spurred Peter along to have faith in Jesus. So Peter doesn't throw the net in here. Major changes. And so we could credit the mother-in-law miracle with inspiring Peter to be willing to do something as kind of off the wall and crazy as this. So maybe that was the point of the mother-in-law miracle, was to get Peter to throw the net in one more time. Because again, the story changes a lot if Peter is too tired to throw that net in. And look, I've just been here all day. Had youth group, and I see Parker. Good to see you, buddy. Parker, was here, and he was at school all day, and he was here and had youth group and stuff. I'm tired. I'm tired now, and so I know the feeling of being like, oh, my bed is going to be so comfortable. I get that feeling, but whatever it was, Peter was willing to throw the net in, and his whole life and the whole gospel changed. and this, pitching it overboard. Changed everything. So, yep. So, anyways, Parker, glad you're here, buddy. Everybody give a what up to Parker. Teresa, that showed he valued what Jesus asked. Trust, clearly. I mean, obviously, Peter valued what Jesus had to say. And again, we're going to have to credit that mother-in-law miracle. Maybe that's what it took. That was what it, and Jesus probably knew that. Listen to me, understood that, and it was because of that convincing, because of that thing. Peter was willing to throw the net in and changed everything. Let's see. Jan says 40 years ago, Scott would throw it back. Well, good for you, Scott. And many of us would hope we would throw, even myself, I hope I would throw that net in. I really do. I'd like to think I would have. Cheryl says, Jack, your note about a little convincing. How many times in our lives do we need a little convincing, even after we've seen him work in our lives? How many times? Daily, at a minimum, right? I mean, come on. Everybody wants to be convinced all the time. Everybody wants to have evidence, and the evidence has to be renewed on nearly an hourly basis. And that can get to be tiring to have to require that much. Convincing all the time. How quickly we go from, oh man, I'm totally in, to, oh man, I'm totally out. Sometimes that step is not as far as we wished it was. So yeah, a lot of times we'll say what Scott says here. What does he know? He's a carpenter, which we're going to come back to that idea here in a moment. But what does he know? He's a carpenter. He's not a fisherman. Does he even know how to build boats? I mean, as a carpenter, we would hope so, but he, why would we want to listen to him and take fishing advice? For the same reason you don't want to have Pastor Tim give you plumbing advice. I don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know anything about cars. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. You want to learn about prayer or theology or things like that? Sure, I can talk about that. But the best advice I could give you, if there's something wrong with your electrical system in your house, the best advice I could give you is don't do anything I tell you to do, because you may die. It's just how it is. So, all right. So think about where we've been. Peter heard Jesus preaching, and Jesus went home with him and pulled his mother-in-law out of a fever. Then sometime later, Jesus runs into Peter out on the water somewhere. Not a very successful night fishing. And here's the other thing you got to think of. If Peter and the boys were not having any luck fishing, it's very, very likely that nobody was having luck fishing, which means the markets had no fish to buy. So the other part of that you have to appreciate is when that big catch came in, they were probably the only one who had any fish. So that is a gold mine they've got there to sell all those fish that nobody had. So, not only was it a show of faith, but there's a little financial gain going on there too. And let's not discount that. I'm not giving any fault or saying they were wrong, but that was certainly a part of the equation here. So, okay, so we go from mom-in-law is sick, no fish, to almost more fish than we can deal with. Okay, so the next time we see Peter show up is in the next chapter, is Luke chapter 6. And in this, the disciples are walking on a Sabbath, and they're taking some husks of grain, and they're rubbing them in their hands and blowing away the chaff and then eating the grain. And the Pharisees are like, the heck is going on here? That ain't supposed to be happening. I don't know what you guys think you're doing, but that you guys are supposed to be working on the Sabbath. And, and so I find today's response very interesting. Now, this is always one of my one of my favorite stories. There's a phrase I never say, right? But I love this one because, all right, so Jesus is there. They're eating these husks by hand, and the Pharisees are like, the heck is going on? And Jesus is like, why are you guys upset for? And they're like, we're not supposed to be working on the Sabbath. And Jesus says, oh, well, I'm going to prove to you guys that, this ain't how it works. And so okay, so that happened on one Sabbath. There was then another Sabbath where Jesus goes to the temple, and there was a man there who had something wrong with his hand. I don't know what, missing a hand, maybe arthritis, maybe he was deformed in some way, or was injured, or who knows what. So, anyways, this guy had problems with his hand, and Jesus said, it's object lesson time, guys. Okay, deformed hand guy, which I'm sure he had a nicer name for him than that. Come on up here. And the guy walked up, and everybody's like, what is about to happen? What is about to happen? Because everybody's like, Jesus, if you heal this guy right now, there's going to be problems. The Pharisees are not going to like that. And Jesus' response was, yes, I like it when Pharisees don't like stuff. It's my favorite thing when Pharisees don't like things. That is my favorite thing on planet Earth is making Pharisees not like stuff. That is my favorite fun activity, hobby, pastime. And he says, here, I'm going to make it worse. I want to make sure they understand just how angry I want them to be. So have the guy who has the withered hand come on up here. So the guy comes up there, and again, I got to imagine the guy's self-conscious about the hand. I'm not suggesting in any way that Jesus was making fun of this man. I do not believe that's what was going on. But he had the guy stand up there, and I think this is one. Let me read here a second. Yeah. Okay, this is the one where Jesus. Okay, so imagine my man Wilson right there. Okay, there's Wilson right there. Thank you, Jack Miller, for Wilson. There's Wilson's name right there. Let's imagine that Wilson is the guy with the deformed hand, and I am Jesus. All right, so that's what we're doing. So Jesus is like, so is it good to do good on the Sabbath? Is that okay if we do that? Because I got my man standing right here. Right there he is. And he seems to have something wrong with his hand. Would he be wrong? Now look where I'm looking. I'm not looking at him. I'm looking at everybody else. Would it be wrong of me if I healed this guy on the Sabbath? Would that be controversial? And the Pharisees were looking at him like this. Right? They're super mad. So Jesus was like, and again, I'm not even looking at the guy. That's what it says here. I'm not looking at every single person. Are you mad? Are you triggered? Have I managed to trigger you yet? I haven't. Not yet? Okay, how about if I did this? Stretch out your hand. At which point, the guy's like, his hand was healed. And all of a sudden, everybody goes wild, but not for the reason you'd think. When Jesus did the great catch of fish for Peter in the previous day's reading, Peter's response was, I will follow you to the ends of the earth. Now he does another miracle that's right in line with healing the mother-in-law. Yes, this guy has a different thing wrong with him, but it's healing. It's the same kind of thing. And their response was, I'm super mad. I'm super mad. And honestly, the way Luke tells this, and this is not Tim making it up, you guys read it. The way Luke tells this, it sounds like Jesus was almost as happy that he triggered these guys as he was for the guy who got his hand healed. It seems to me like Jesus is like, look, my man. I'm so happy to help you, and I'm looking forward to your new life with your new hand. Look how triggered these guys are. Isn't this funny? I mean, I can't read it any other way. If Jesus wanted to heal the guy, he could have taken him outside of town. He didn't have to do it in front of everybody. He could have done it any way he wanted. But no, he wanted to trigger the Pharisees. And as we are going to continue reading, and the more I read Jesus, and y'all know, I think Jesus is the greatest thing that ever happened to this planet. I don't even think there is a second place on that one. The fact that he made it his hobby to trigger the Pharisees, I'm sorry. I love the guy for that. I love the guy for lots of reasons, but I certainly love him for that. So jump in the comments and tell me, Are you comfortable with this, though? Imagine how radical this is, because there were rules. And one of the rules was you don't work on the Sabbath. Do you know how important that rule was? If you want to know how important, because that particular commandment was about keeping the Sabbath, go read Exodus chapter 1. And what you'll find out is the whole reason that God caused the entire Exodus that Moses eventually had to lead the people back from was caused because the people were not keeping the Sabbath. That was the sin that caused the entire Exodus story. So I think we would be safe to say keeping the Sabbath is a pretty big deal. And Jesus basically does this to them. I mean, that's basically what he does. And they were triggered beyond all triggered. They were so mad, super upset about this. And and while you're thinking about this, and I would love for you to comment. I would love somebody to say something, please. Tell me what you think about Jesus thumbing his nose at the rules. I mean, that's what he did. He was specifically ordered in the Old Testament not to do this, and he did. And this is not keeping the Sabbath is probably one of the most important tenets of the Old Testament. It certainly gets a lot more ink about many of the other things that we get really upset about. Yet Jesus was like, meh, I'm going to trigger some Pharisees today because it's about them. So I'm not going to go any farther with this than that. I know there's a lot of ways we can go with this, but I just want you to see the point Jesus was making. You know, the rules are important, and we should have rules, and we should have boundaries, and we should have limitations. Absolutely. But the rule doesn't exist for the rule's sake. The rule has to have a purpose. And if God decides we're going to move in a different direction, or God decides, to do something wonderful, celebrate that. Even if it's challenging to you. And that's what I really get from this. Again, if Jesus wanted to heal this man, all he had to do was wait one day, and the Pharisees would have had no problem with it. But Jesus didn't. He specifically healed this man in one certain 24-hour period, and he did it not to help the man. I mean, yes, he did help the man, but that wasn't his ultimate goal. His ultimate goal was to trigger the Pharisees. If that's not the case, he wouldn't have done it like this. Something to think about how many things that, we get real bent out of shape about today. What that means. So Cheryl says, even miracles will be criticized by those who like to make rules for others. People who like to make rules for others will criticize literally anything. You couldn't be more right. Cheryl. Sue says, the idea of what is considered work needs to be better defined. That's probably true. However, I'm pretty sure that Jesus was not afraid to, push the boundaries to get them to see beyond what was happening. Jesus created the Sabbath. He specifically says that in this passage. And since it belongs to him like everything else does, God can do what he wants with it. I sometimes wonder if we think that by following enough rules that we get to call the shots. I'm pretty sure that's what the Pharisees thought. Hey, we're keeping all these rules, so we're the ones that get to say what happens. And Jesus was like, yeah, I don't think so. That's essentially what he did. Jesus didn't consider healing work. I'm sure Jesus didn't, but the Pharisees certainly did. And Jesus had to know the Pharisees would think that he did. So, clearly the Pharisees thought it was work, or else they wouldn't have been so triggered. It says here they were wild with rage. And the only reason they'd been wild with rage is they at least had the perception that Jesus broke the rules. So whether he actually did or not, whatever you want to argue on that. But what I'm saying is he did this specifically in this way to trigger them, to help get them to see past the rigid boundaries they had set. And they were really mad. So they were paying attention. Teresa, he was beginning to reveal to them that he was the fulfillment of the law. Well, he certainly got them thinking he was something, because you can't heal somebody like this without God being with you. I mean, there's no debating that. However, at the same time, he apparently the rules didn't apply to him. And the Pharisees, as you can imagine, the rule keepers they were definitely not into that idea. So Dave and Amy says the Pharisees clearly did not have love in their hearts. I mean, there could be nothing more obvious than that. That's true. They focus on the laws, not the purpose of the laws. That's right. How could you not celebrate with this man? How could you not say this is the greatest day of this man's life? I mean, we have no idea how long his hand had been like that. Again, even if it was just a day, even if he was somehow injured the day before, so he spent one day with a wounded hand and Jesus healed it. Even then, you got to be able to say, what a wonderful blessing for this man. Yeah, all they saw was rules, not blessing. Something to think about. So, and Jan, I see you agree. So very good. So, all right. Let's go on to page 5. We'll look at Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 22. Interestingly, if you'll notice, if you look at these 2 days, if you open your book up like this so you can see both of the days, you'll notice this happens immediately after that. So Jesus triggers the Pharisees, and then immediately he goes to this. So he immediately goes to this. So he goes to the mountain and he prays all night. And he prays about choosing the disciples, because the chosen 12, because that's what he came down and immediately did. So I'm guessing since he chose these 12, I'm assuming that there must have been other candidates. I'm not sure. Maybe these were the 12 that were waiting for. I don't know. Whatever it was, Jesus wanted them to be blessed. In order to accomplish that, he went up and prayed all night. Which, think about that. Jesus wanted to take so seriously to choose these 12 guys that he went up and communed with his Father all night long, so that when he came down, he would be confident in the presence of the Holy Spirit, and he would be able to choose the correct 12 men to be his followers. It's a very interesting thing, because to me, this story has always illustrated the importance of prayer. I knew we were going to do Peter, which is why I did not choose this passage for the prayer sermon series that we're having right now, because I didn't want to double up. But this could have very well been one on our list of times, because Jesus prayed for this, and then he came down and chose the 12. Interesting thing about that is, if you know anything about the gospel story, you almost are tempted to think, Jesus, did you get the right 12? I mean, even one of them is called here. One of them's a zealot. You got Simon, who is not Simon Peter. This is another guy named Simon, because you think, Jesus, if you pick 12 guys, at least get 12 guys with different names. He chose 2 of them that had the same name. There are 2 Simons. There are 2 Judases in this group. So because there's Judas, son of James, and then Judas Iscariot, who Iscariot simply means betrayer. So the gospel writers really, really hate Judas. And sometime other than in this study, we can debate whether or not Judas deserves all that hate. But boy, he is certainly hated, branded as betrayer right here, chose the betrayer. Which begs the question, did Jesus hear God wrong? I mean, Peter's he's going to be a constant screw up, as we're going to see. Judas sold him out for a pocket full of coins. Andrew, we read stories in other places where Andrew was like, anything good come out of Nazareth? I mean, James and John are hotheads. Jesus refers to them as the sons of thunder. And that sounds like a great name, man. I want to be a son of thunder. No, it means you got a big mouth. That's what it means. You're boisterous and loud and whatever. That's what it means to be a son of thunder. You got another guy here who Simon referred to as the zealot. Means he wanted to go kill the Romans. It's not really jiving with Jesus's peace message here, any. So, it just is a very hodgepodge group of guys here. Other ones of them we know very, very little about. Philip, we read about him baptizing an Ethiopian in the book of Acts. Bartholomew, I have no idea anything Bartholomew did. James, son of Alphaeus, who is the other James. So we got 2 James, 2 Judases, and 2 Simons. out of 12. He got 2 sets of double names, so that's confusing. You got Thomas, and what's the name we always put with Thomas? Doubting Thomas. I mean, there was an internet forward going around a few years ago where a company, it was a joke, but a company went through and evaluated employees. And out of the 12 disciples, the only one who tested out to be a good employee was Judas because of his, industriousness and whatever. But I just, this story has always impressed upon me the importance of prayer and the importance of praying through decisions and things like that, which again, I'm very much in favor of. But holy cow, did these 12 guys struggle to live up to the reputation that they were given? Now, 11 of them ended up doing pretty good. At least we think so. I mean, we're not real sure what happened to all of them, but for the most part, they ended up being pretty good. And you can even make the argument that Judas certainly played his role well. So be that as it may. Sometimes when you pray and you make a choice, it may at times be dubious as to whether or not you did the right thing, because you can certainly make the point here that these 12, we could have gotten 12 better guys than these. But these are the 12 guys God wanted. Why? God's ways are mysterious. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to go with that. But for whatever reason, these were the guys that the good Lord wanted, and that's where they were. So now, Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, has the famous Sermon on the Mount. Luke, it's called the Sermon on the Plain, but it has a lot of the same thing. A lot of the sermon's a lot the same, and he gets some of the Beatitudes here. God blesses you when you're poor, for the kingdom of God is yours. Blesses you when you're hungry now, because you'll be satisfied. God blesses you when you weep now, for in due time you'll laugh. And so on and so forth. It's kind of a condensed version of the Sermon on the Mount that we have in Matthew. So that's the idea here. Anybody got any comments on this day? I see a couple people popped up here. Page 5. Anybody got any comments on page 5? I'd love to read them. Teresa says, I think he chose men who were willing to follow, not perfect, which is true. Makes me feel better that God chose me for this purpose. I think I even said that in the devotional. If God could choose somebody as unqualified as Peter, certainly there's a role for me in there somewhere. Tina and Mike say, what fun would it be if all your friends were perfect? Exactly. I mean, how fun would that be? Wouldn't even be exciting. So, and that's I think Jesus certainly echoed that sentiment for sure. So make decisions prayerfully. I mean, that whenever I preach on this passage, which I have many times, I would say prayerfully make decisions, all decisions. And the more important the decision, the more prayerful it should be. I still remember that quote from Martin Luther, who said, I pray an hour just about every day, except for the days I'm really busy. And on those days, I pray too. That quote has always stayed with me, because Martin Luther understood the importance of prayerfully approaching anything, but especially decisions. And Cheryl says, glad he doesn't just call the perfect. We'd all be in trouble. Amen to that. I'm not sure there'd be a place for me in any of this if there was a perfection expectation. All right, let's turn the page here, and we're going to get a little racy. I included this one because, again, I don't know that Peter is he mentioned by name? Oh, yeah. Well, okay, no, he's not. First of all, the Simon that is here is not Simon Peter. This is a third Simon. I don't think this is Simon the Zealot. I don't think this is Simon. I know it's not Simon Peter. This is somebody else named Simon. So, again, don't get confused because of the names. So this is not Peter. But they're having a dinner, and they're eating, and a woman comes along, and let's be honest, does something here that I think most of us would be like, if it happened while we were there. She basically starts giving Jesus a bath here at the table. Now, again, I'm not trying to be off color here, but that's essentially what happens. And I mean, this is a very intimate thing that goes on here. And so she has longer hair than mine after my haircut today, or even before my haircut. And but she opens up this bottle of perfume and anoints his feet and starts wiping them off with her hair. That's I think most of us would agree that if somebody invited us over to their house, or no, let's make it even worse. Somebody came over to our house for supper. I mean, because that's what happens here. They're over at this man named Simon's house, and while he's there, there's a woman. Again, how did she get in? What is she doing there? Does she belong there? I have no idea about any of that. And everybody's like, what is she doing here? I mean, I can even see Simon going, how did she get in here? I mean, I feel that. And this woman breaks open this perfume and starts wiping Jesus's feet off with her hair. This is a very intimate moment that everybody's like, I mean, again, I'm not trying to be off color here, but everybody's like, can you guys get a room? I mean, that's what's going on here. And I'm not trying to suggest that something wrong happened here, but this would have made it would make most of us uncomfortable. It was considered a in the culture of the day, and I want you to think about this for a second. It was considered disgraceful for somebody to see the bottom of your foot. Again, I don't know why that was, but they were very sensitive about their feet. That's why wearing sandals was such a big deal, because there was a lot of humiliation with the feet. Which means, I mean, think about this then. Everybody's like, I mean, what is going on here? So in this moment that Jesus says, okay, look, to those who much is forgiven, they have great gratitude and all that. And everybody's like, yeah, Jesus, we get that, but we're feeling real uncomfortable with what's going on here. So, I struggle to know what to say with this passage, because I can't really explain what's going on. Because again, if I invited any combination of you good folks who are here over to my house, and while you're at my house and I'm breaking out the pizza rolls and we're getting ready to have supper, and then somebody's, even if it was a married couple, one of them started washing the other one's feet with their hair, I mean, I'm going to be like, guys, I'm trying to eat pizza rolls here. What do you guys do? I mean, I would be, that's not something that we do. And now we're talking a husband and wife, the most intimate relationship there is. Jesus doesn't even know this person that I know of. I don't know what her name is. I don't know anything else about her. All I know is that everybody was like, what? I mean, that's the response here. And it would have been very uncomfortable. And the reason I included this is because Peter's watching this. And he's feeling uncomfortable himself. He's looking around the table, seeing a bunch of other people that are uncomfortable. This guy, Simon, whose house they're all at, he's uncomfortable. But Jesus is not, clearly. The woman who is, weeping as she's doing this wonderful thing for him, is not. And Jesus allowed somebody who society said is beneath him to have contact with him. So this would have been a big moment of Peter seeing somebody unworthy being treated in a very worthy manner. That's what's going on here. This would have been a big moment for Peter to sit back and reflect on what it means to have boundaries and to embrace people as they are. This is not. It would have been a big object lesson for Peter to see this happen, and I don't know what else to say about it than that. If anybody has a comment you'd like to make, I'd love to read it. But this is a very strange story, and I included it for that reason, because Peter's getting stretched here. He's getting pushed. He's getting probably offended. He's probably uncomfortable. He's probably like, I really wish this would stop. I just came for pizza rolls, and why are we doing this? I mean, that's where he's at. And Jesus was doing something that I'm sure Peter wanted to tell him to stop. And because it was so uncomfortable. But what Jesus was allowing was this woman to show him some appreciation. And in a way that was meaningful to her. And they were having a very intimate moment. I don't know how else to describe it. And I'm sure Peter thought about that for a while, because this would have been way, way outside of their comfort zone, and would have really pushed Peter a lot. So, all right. So a few things happened from there, and let's go on to the next day, page 7, and I'm running out of time. I just realized that was the bell ringing, wasn't it? All right, let me do these real quick. If you have any comments on this day on page 7, please write them right now. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was running out of time like this. Again, here's another great story. The carpenter is asleep in the boat, and the fishermen think they're going to drown. Now, don't you think this? I mean, under normal circumstances, which again, this is not. Under normal circumstances, wouldn't you think it'd be the other way around? The carpenter would be the one freaking out, and the fishermen are like, we've seen worse than this. Yet they're not. Jesus is sleeping through a storm where the disciples think they're going to die. Maybe he tells us something about, sometimes God doesn't take as seriously things that we get real serious about. And sometimes it gives a little perspective to the storms in our life, that Jesus is not as concerned about them as we are. I'm not saying that he's belittling, because obviously once they get Jesus' attention, he shazams the storm and it goes away. But the idea here is that sometimes we need to allow God to be God, and God's going to be a lot more calm about some things than we're going to be. So I think that's a very interesting story. And then finally, let's go on to the next day. This is the last day. I'm going to go through this quickly. I'm sorry, I'm running over. Talking about one of the more bizarre healing stories, where Jesus healed somebody by accident. So he's on the way to deal with Jairus and his daughter, which is pretty straightforward what's going on there. But on the way, this lady who was unclean and was broken, grabbed, just kind of tugged on his shirt tail, essentially. And Jesus was like, "All right, who just got healed? Who just got healed? Who got healed here?" And the disciples were like, "Jesus, are you serious right now? How could we know? What the heck are we supposed to do?" And I just imagine Jesus is so powerful that he could change somebody's life and not even, without even being aware of what's going on. And I'm not saying he's not aware, but in this particular case, if he knew who got healed, then he wouldn't have turned around and asked who it was. He would have said it was you, but he didn't even know. And that's something about the power of Jesus. Can straighten things up so quickly. And sometimes it happens, before he's even cognizant of it. So shows something about the power of Jesus. Also, that's a great illustration of how impurity works. Normally, when something contaminated or something impure comes in contact with something that's pure, the pure thing is what suffers. So if this is unclean and it touches, now this is unclean. Where Jesus has the power to take clean and overtake what's not clean, what's impure, what's defiled. So his purity is so pure and so clean that he actually overtakes the other way around. It basically would be like the dark canceling out the light. Normally when the light comes on, the darkness goes away. Well, when it comes to contamination, whenever contamination is present, anything clean goes away. Where Jesus runs the opposite. He is so pure that his purity and his cleanliness will actually overtake the what's defiled and make it pure as well. It'd be like my hand is dirty and this pencil is clean. Well, now if I touch it here, now my hand is clean because it touched. We're normally the other way around. If this is clean and my hand is dirty and it touches, now the pencil's dirty. Where Jesus, it runs the opposite way. He takes something that's dirty, and when he touches it, now it's clean. He's like the antibacterial soap for sin, I guess, or something like that. That's kind of the analogy here. Again, a concept that did not exist in the ancient world, but he was so powerful that he was able to do it. That's what this passage represents. Peter would have been shocked at this because he'd never seen it work this way. His whole life, the contaminated would always overtake the uncontaminated, but in this case, it went the opposite way. She was made pure because of Jesus' purity. It's a great story. So, and thank you, Teresa. Nobody can make use of a pencil like me. So, All right. I'm sorry I ran over a couple minutes. Give me some closing comments. You guys enjoying Peter? Enjoying Luke? Enjoying Lent? Somebody just give me a little feedback. That I love and hate this format, and that I wish we could be here where you guys could talk to me and I could look at your faces, because I notice on Sunday mornings I get a lot of there's a lot of that going on that I can't do in this format. So now I have to have you tell me. You guys follow me? Everybody good? All right, I'm getting a few responses here. Good. Yeah, I just want to make sure that it makes sense, because that's how it works. So, all right. Hey, I appreciate you. I know we had a few people drop off when we hit 9 o'clock, and I'm sorry about that. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Hope you guys are enjoying this, being a part of this study, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm considering, when we get toward the end of the study, possibly having the option, if you guys want to come here, and we'll have the study live in the sanctuary. So I'll still broadcast it over YouTube, but we'll do it live, so you have a chance to have some people here if you guys would like to come and be present here in the sanctuary. You have a little feedback or whatever. So you can, that will be an option. It'll still be broadcast on YouTube, so we can do it that way too. But kind of thinking about that. Something we'll talk about in subsequent weeks. So, all right, guys. Hey, I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate you being a part of this, along with me in this conversation. Yeah, you guys are welcome, Dave and Amy. Thanks, Cheryl. So, yeah, feel free to text me any feedback. Most of you have my number, I'm sure, and let me know. Appreciate you guys all coming out. I love you all very much. I want you to all go have a wonderful night's sleep, and I'll keep praying for some nicer weather. But y'all know what you need to go do now, and that is go wash your hands. Have a great night.